I'm Kyle Stoflet. We're back with the blockchain sessions. Today I'm joined by Kyle Langham from DFINITY Foundation.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Glad to be here. I'm the Director of Data and Analytics at DFINITY, basically analyzing the blockchain data, reporting internally on where growth metrics are headed, what's working, what isn't working. But probably more importantly than that, just a big evangelicalist for ICP, really passionate about the technology. So I spend a lot of time out talking with the community, at conferences, presenting on the technology, and really just love talking with people about it's such an innovative space, and you see people building products that were never possible before. So I just love to hear, stories of these entrepreneurs who are trying different things and looking to find a product that really kind of changes the market or changes the world.
You've really stepped up and become the face of ICP this year, going to a lot of the conferences. You've been doing a lot of the web sessions for Twitter Spaces and so on. We got to see you at the Stacks event for the Bitcoin Goes MultiChain. As far as what you've seen the growth of just the multi-chain narrative with ICP and scaling CKBTC, how receptive has that been for you this year compared to last year from Bitcoin Miami?
Actually, yeah, Bitcoin Miami is a great comparison to this year, but I would say I think a couple things. One, we've gotten a lot more clear on the narrative of what exactly is the integrations that ICP offers. We've branded it under this Chain Fusion branding name. And it really just kind of comes down to recognizing that, okay, ICP is a decentralized tech stack. It's a cloud hosting provider. These integrations, though, allow us to then provide hosting services for other blockchains like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, soon Solana. And so what we're noticing is two things. One, the Bitcoin narrative is really, really interesting. I'd say Ethereum, there's already an ecosystem that's been established, and there's different L2s and EVMs that do different things. And so it's kind of a crowded space. It's hard to get noticed as much. But the Bitcoin narrative is newer. This whole progressive Bitcoin or Bitcoin Season 2 is blowing up. And I'm not sure really our industry recognizes exactly what's going. It's still so early that I'm not sure people are realizing that there's a lot of movement, a lot of players coming into it. So then again, you get ICP, a huge amount of storage on chain. You can do, a lot of computation on chain. You can then integrate into different blockchains. And so we're really learning okay, we bring value to Bitcoin, and we can bring value to Ethereum, and we can bring value to Solana. So let's do that. Let's just make these integrations easy for developers to use, and then they can keep their app on their chain, right? If you have an Ethereum app, you don't have to move it to ICP, but you can build a component on ICP and take advantage of, AI functionality that is now kicking up. You can take advantage of the data storage, that kind of stuff. I mean, so some exciting things that just talking with some of the bigger players in BRC20s and Runes and Ordinals this week, people are really excited over data availability. So basically copying over the entire Bitcoin state over to ICP in a smart contract, and now all that data becomes available in a decentralized way. That kind of stuff, people are really starting to say, oh, actually, I've been looking for that for years, and you guys are going to provide it. That's awesome.
With CKBTC, the progress that it's seen over this year, and it was one of the first to introduce this Bitcoin L2. So obviously we've seen a lot more kind of erupt from it. It has been a credible source of a L2 so far. So you've already been second year at the Bitcoin conference.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a good feeling to be rewarded with all the excitement. I've seen so many Chain Fusion bags going around and the Motoko billboards and stuff this year. So it's been exciting to see as someone that appreciates ICP like myself. As far as this year, has there been some other key takeaways from Bitcoin builders that have learned to appreciate ICP as an L2?
I mean, to compare it back to Bitcoin Miami last year, we DFINITY showed up with just a very small team. We were more just on site to kind of learn what was going on. There was not really much conversation at all in Miami about building on Bitcoin. So that was just a year ago. And then you fast forward this year and you have Stacks putting on a 1.5 day conference designated just for Bitcoin builders that, I think they had 1,200 people registered for. So you go from almost nothing last year to now 1,200. I mean, I would say, so again, ICP was in a great position with our Bitcoin integration going back, 18 months ago to see this. But I would give credit to, Stacks, especially for their leadership in the space. They've really kind of stepped up and kind of said, okay, look, this there's momentum going. They obviously have their Nakamoto release coming out in the next few weeks, which would be a real big advancement. So, and then there are a lot of other players like BitLayer. You have like Bitcoin Layers, who's now like kind of providing a lot more research in the space. So these other L2s, other side chains, there's a bunch of EVMs that have now integrated back into Bitcoin. So all of these players are kind of playing their role to get this momentum going for building on Bitcoin. So just happy that ICP, we're playing our part. We want to come in, we want to help with some leadership and help with basically like growth, right? We have a global network with the hubs and a global community. I think we can kind of provide a lot more to the industry in that way. But yeah, I'd just say that it feels like early days Ethereum in the sense of just people are trying out new things, a lot of innovative approaches. A lot of these companies are raising, a lot of these L2s are raising, tens of millions of dollars, sometimes getting 9-figure valuation. So there's money there, there's excitement, there's innovation happening. And now we're kind of moving into that stage of like, okay, well, what are the apps that are going to get built? And what is that going to look like? Are we going to copy paste what happened on Ethereum and like just do DeFi and NFTs? Or are we going to actually try something new, which I think would be pretty interesting?
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen an influx of people wanting to build on ICP for the Bitcoin. Have you noticed a trend? Is it more like ordinal focused, or is it more like runes focused currently? Because I know there's been a lot of new exchanges kind of coming into the mix.
Yeah.
Integrating ICP as dexes and so on. Have you noticed like a specific field for Bitcoin building on IC?
It's very broad. So, I mean, ordinals, obviously, you had like Bionic was very early on ICP, building an ordinals marketplace. We have Omnity, who's been pioneering some rune stuff. I know now that we have our Threshold Schnorr test key and soon the production key that unlocks BRC20s, I think that actually is going to be a pretty significant growth area on ICP, having apps come in and build like BRC28 automatic market makers or order books or different swap protocols. There's also a lot of like novel use cases. Like Loca mining is one where they provide basically kind of like leveraging CKBTC. They provide like liquidity to miners who can then basically sell their future hash rate. So it allows a miner to raise funds today by selling their future hash rate to a pool of people, investors. So they're getting a lot of progress. I've seen like some gambling apps that use Bitcoin that have been popping up and that I guess not surprisingly are doing very well.
Yeah.
So it's very broad. That's one of the, like, we did Chain Fusion Day yesterday, and that was one of the nice things of like having all the keynotes come up and talk. Is it's not like it's just one focus. It's just, I mean, again, and I think that's kind of like the superpower of ICP is you can, just like in the same way that like AWS, Amazon Web Services opened up the ability for any developer to have an idea and go in and build it and do it cheaply and deploy quickly and iterate quickly. ICP is kind of becoming that for the decentralized version of AWS. And so you just see people come in and try different things that, I don't know, that again, it's like an innovative playground and I'm seeing that with Bitcoin. So
I remember your old podcast partner, Jesse, coming out with the video, ICP is the everything chain.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It solves a lot of, key issues in the industry. So it's been cool to kind of see more projects come in, start building these other applications for the L2 side. But as far as, obviously you've been in blockchain for years now, what has been like some of your favorite moments that have been like key and pivotal for moving forward in the entire blockchain space, or even more specific with IC, I guess?
I mean, I think the movement back to Bitcoin is going to be a pretty significant change for our industry. I think Munib Ali, who's the co-founder of Stacks, he was at Chain Fusion Day yesterday, and he made a point that I never really thought about, which was Bitcoin started off to be money and now has the opportunity to go to programmability. Ethereum started off with programmability and then is trying to pivot to money, and you could probably argue unsuccessfully as of now. And that actually is a pretty key thing when you think about when you're building technology on top of a token, you're going to prefer to build one that's already been generally accepted as money. You have today presidential candidates talking about strategic Bitcoin reserves, which is like, if nothing else says this is money, then that, like, kind of a deal. So that's a big one. Honestly, I think just the innovation going on like DPIN, blockchain is actually making a really big progress on like decentralizing GPU power, so making it more efficient for AI developers to build AI models and do training. I know within ICP we have our own AI on the application layer that's been super exciting. Like DFINITY demoed fully on-chain facial recognition. So you think about the privacy concerns about facial recognition, or the problems that could happen if people tamper with a facial recognition program that's doing critical things like, criminal justice or something like that. So having a facial recognition fully on chain that's tamper proof, it's got a significant, that's just can really, really open up new products and safety for the industry. But I guess that's it. It's like crypto kind of got into a DeFi, NFT, GameFi, where like the verticals that for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, that's kind of gotten old, I guess, or less exciting. I mean, it's great infrastructure and everything, but I love seeing this innovation come out of people thinking about like decentralized infrastructure for DePIN, or like these AI use cases. Like, how can we take blockchain and make it so it's not just a speculative tool? Like, let's make it be something that actually, like, software that could not have been built pre-blockchain now can be built. So it's like the next wave of the internet, not just this, monkey JPEG speculation.
Yeah, it's something with real utility and stuff.
Yeah.
Dom had the video that went very viral for AI. Is there any other like things that you can share like coming up that DFINITY's been working on with AI? You kind of, I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but
No, I mean, we're very publicly hiring AI experts for the space. Like AI, so you could probably say our three main initiatives are, in no particular order, Chain Fusion, AI, and then Utopia, which we could get into later. But AI is definitely a huge focus for us. We see it as two things. One, that decentralized AI is the way to solve the trust issue with AI. Like, AI has a significant problem, and I'm saying AI. I'm usually referring to LLMs or generative AI for the most part, because that's kind of where the consumer mind goes to with AI, but it really could be any machine learning, any neural network, anything like that. But the consumers have like a significant trust. Like they don't trust that the information's accurate. They don't trust that their prompts are being manipulated. You had the whole Gemini thing where it was trained on they tried to remove racial bias and then actually kind of introduced it through that for a while. And so decentralizing that, though, is a way where you can make it so that the consumer can be certain that they're interacting with the inference engine that they think they're interacting with. You can make it so that their prompts they can verify that the prompt wasn't manipulated on the way into the engine. You can do it. I mean, simple questions like think about this problem, right? OpenAI clearly trained ChatGPT on pretty much any available information on the internet, including stuff that you could argue is copyright. Right. And so now there's all these legal cases where the authors who are saying, you trained your model on my book, and now people can ask specific questions about my book. And it's like clearly understands the context of my book. And I didn't give you permission I don't get any royalties from any of this. So how could you prove, though? Like, how could an OpenAI is like, no, we didn't do that. We only did it from stuff we have access to and things like that. Well, you could have it where if the data is stored on chain, you can, and the training is done on chain, you can have a hash that just proves that, yes, this was the data we trained on, and everything else was not used to train on. It's like just solving those simple problems that are being created by AI. We see decentralized AI as that. Our biggest play is improving the performance specs of the internet computer. Like, that's how you get it to where you can actually accomplish a lot of these AI things. So more memory, being able to store more memory on chain, having a higher heap memory. We're pursuing like a GPU subnet, which would be kind of crazy, and that would be that'd be like a significant game changer for the industry if we can accomplish that from a technological standpoint. So yeah, so I think just AI in general, like we see that there's this need for there's value that blockchain can bring AI products. And one thing I've always known is like one thing that's very clear is like if there's market value to be provided to a product, the market will find a way to get there. And so just like when I was talking at the Bitcoin Builders Conference, I was talking about early day eBay. And many people don't remember this because our industry's a little younger than myself. But when eBay first launched, most of the transactions, like the online auction would conclude, and then the transaction would be executed in person because it wasn't easy to pay people online.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of it was just consumers were afraid to use credit cards online. But there's obviously demand for it, right? People didn't want to just use eBay in their own town. They wanted to buy something that was across the country or across the world. And so PayPal kind of like solved that, right? They found a way to extract away the bank account information into like a login on eBay. You also saw like credit card companies start to offer fraud protection and things like that. Like just that kind of innovation, when there's demand, the market's going to solve it. And so we see ICP as a very likely potential way to solve all these problems that AI has with trust and concerns over like deep fakes and stuff like that. Like there's all these different use cases that I think can be solved leveraging blockchain.
Yeah. Then I remember like the days of like using Amazon or any like website to purchase stuff. It was like 5, 10 steps sometimes, and now it's
Oh my
like one
gosh.
click buy.
Yeah.
So
It's almost too easy now.
yeah, now it's like, oh, I accidentally clicked the button and bought something. Like, but yeah, as far as like what you're mentioning with ICP being able to upgrade and stuff, I love the ease of being able to upgrade. Like anyone being able to contribute to the NNS and provide proposals and an update. I remember the days before we got to 400 gigabytes in a smart contract or canister. You know, it's been nice to see like ICP just continuously evolve.
Yeah.
And get more and more powerful. And I think it's one of the easiest, and not, I say this as a non-dev, but one of the easiest chains to upgrade. I just don't have to do the coding myself.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
so yeah, but
I'll let the DFINITY engineers know that you said this is really easy.
yeah. I mean, they'll probably be like really upset hearing that, but yeah, no, they do a great job.
Yeah.
But I guess more like forward-looking statements that we can kind of get to, like where like some key things you think like the industry should, as a whole, like focus more to. Obviously, like chain fusion is about coming together and stuff, but where like some key areas that you think like the blockchain industry should focus so it can continue growing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a significant chance that blockchain is fully saturated right now. And the reason I think that is because we've gone into this like tribalistic approach where users will tend to prefer one or two chains, and then they attack the other chains, or they just refuse to move outside of it. That's for an industry that is built on network effects. Fragmenting ourselves like that is just completely silly, and it prevents us from actually realizing the true network effects, right? And so I think actually really that's one area where, like, if we want to actually grow blockchain in general, we have to tear down the tribalism. We have to tear down this idea that, like, you know, I won't use that product because it's built on that chain. Even if I want to use that product, I can't, because I can't support a different chain. So like that's one area I see it moving. And then again, I think innovating beyond just the DeFi. So DeFi has a place. It's really interesting to have like a decentralized finance. But then when you think about like, well, what is the use case of this? Like, why does this matter? There's simple things like that we have yet to really take advantage of, like the fact that like 60% of the world is still unbanked, right? Like 60% of the world doesn't have access to a bank in their town or their region, or if they do, their bank doesn't consider them to be a customer because they don't have the net worth or the income or something like that to justify the expense for a bank. So if you think about that, that's 60% of the world. Like DeFi should be solving that. Like, why don't we have applications where somebody can take whatever savings they have and store it as Bitcoin, let's say, and be able to earn interest on that? Like, those kind of products need to exist, and need to exist for those people who don't have it. So I think that these like getting into where we're actually getting use cases that like solve world problems. Is really important. I will say I was at ETH Denver, and one of the disappointing parts about ETH Denver earlier this year was it kind of felt like the conference was highlighting ways in which people were solving problems created by the industry. Like, oh, data availability is a problem, so we're solving that, and fragmented liquidity is a problem, so we're solving it. It's like, yeah, we're just solving our own problems. Like, we got to solve problems outside our industry and get focused on that, and hopefully we move that way.
I remember there was a big headline with like Nigeria banks like closing up, people not being able to get their funds and
Yep.
stuff, and that'd be a scary thing. Obviously, like being U.S. based, like I haven't had that issue, but that's
Right.
definitely like a very stressful situation that those families have been enduring. And it's happened in many countries.
You had Cyprus in like 2012 or 2014, somewhere around there, where they literally just took $600 from everyone's bank account. You have like, when the Ukraine-Russia conflict opened up, both countries put capital preservation measures in, so you couldn't take capital out of the country. So yeah, I mean, it's in the United States, we're kind of spoiled in a way because we don't worry about these things.
Yeah.
I mean, but look at like Canada during the truckers' riots, where they literally froze bank accounts for people who are donating to the truckers who are doing the protest. And so so I mean that's Canada, like just north of our border. It's like, and it's a democracy. So we don't necessarily think about it here in America, but it is possible. And it's kind of surprising maybe how close it is that it could happen.
I mean, it's very close to home. It's
Yeah.
our neighbor, right? So I know you mentioned on like getting rid of the tribalism in the space. Obviously, like there's chains that are good at specific things. Like, do you kind of see? And I guess this is like a thought that opinion I have with the space is like you should be able to, as a project, to leverage the best of each chain.
Yes,
And
100%.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of communities that like backfire against that, and it's like, hey, if we want to see crypto evolve and grow, like we should be willing to use little bits, the best of each chain, and feel comfortable doing so. But it just seems like we're still at this friction point before people accept that.
Right.
You speak with all these like big projects and stuff. So do you see like, are they encountering like some friction points with getting people to use like all these different chains, or is it starting to become more of a norm to grow into using multi-chain focus?
I think it depends on the community that you're building into. 100%. I've talked to there's developers who have built multi-chain apps, and they will go out of their way to make sure that they're only highlighting one of those chains because that might be their major customer base, and their customer base is very tribal. And by saying, "Oh, we also do this on this other chain," means that their customers will revolt, like they've been backstabbed or something like that. So it definitely is a thing. But I think it really comes down to like if you kind of go back to it, it's the entrepreneurs who start with an idea of a product they want to build. And you're absolutely right that different blockchains are built to optimize on different things. And really what we need, like what we should be doing as an industry is allowing entrepreneurs to have an idea for a product and then build the exact product they want without having to make sacrifices on the tech stack because they wanted to build into a specific community, or they wanted to they could only use one of the blockchains. Like, you really should be allowed to build components on different blockchains, and we should, so that you can then leverage all the advantages that you need from specific chains. It's kind of like databases. There's a lot of different ways you can do a SQL database. You can. It's not like it's just Microsoft SQL that's the only database offering. Like, Oracle's another big provider, and that's fine. Like, as a company, like back when I was in my corporate days, like you would have some MS database, and then you would have some Oracle databases, and it's not like those two things couldn't coexist. And maybe you had to have some sort of way to to have the two talk back and forth, but it's not. These are just technologies. Like, these aren't philosophical ideas. It's a technology. So
Yeah.
so hopefully we can get in that mindset.
Yeah, and I think 'cause on IC we've seen all these different social media platforms grow, right?
Yep.
And if we want to get to millions and millions of users, like there's got to be a place that they come from. So I know Discover, obviously, they focus a little bit more on Solana, but Solana has a very large community, and to bring all of Web3 together, I would assume Discover keeps going more chains and stuff. So that's how we'll get like the next Twitter or Facebook in a Web3 space. Like, everyone, like in every social media platform, there's like communities, and it's a focus, right? So, a network probably have its own community. People, go. So like, I don't know. It amazes me that people get like a little tribal about it when it's like, hey, like we can show off the best of Web3 in a social media platform. Everyone has different ideas.
Yeah.
Just like you might say something different than I might say on Facebook or whatever. But it's just the reality of Web3. Everyone has different things that they like, but you should be able to come together and build communities from there.
Yeah, I think like Dmail is a great example of an
Yep.
app that just went chain to chain to chain to chain, and they've done it pretty successfully.
Oh, definitely.
And again, like the idea is like you use Dmail, it should be that you use Dmail because you like the application, not because it supports your favorite chain, right? That's where we kind of got to get to, and I think we will get there. And as more and more apps do multi-chain, I think people will start to just appreciate products for the products. We could abstract away the whole the fact of like tokens being different by having like, you can have a swap that happens behind the scenes without you know. So if you have token A and you want to use token and an app only requires token B, the app can certainly make it seem like token A is fine as long as it can swap it to token B in the back end and then use token B. So like there's there's technological ways to solve this. It's not hard, and it's just more of like the industry. We went down a certain path, and it takes time now to course correct back to the correct path.
Anywhere people should follow you on socials, Kyle?
Kyle Langham on X. You could find me on OpenChat. OpenChat pretty often as well.
Any other statements you'd like to mention before we wrap up?
Hey, I'll say thank you for having. It's a phenomenal setup you guys have here. Great interview. I loved it.
Thank you.
I'd shout out again the Bitcoin L2s that are leading in the space, Stacks for putting on the Bitcoin Builders Conference, and everyone who, we had a phenomenal lineup for Chain Fusion Day of, the co-founders of most of the major Bitcoin L2s and other big projects building in the Bitcoin space. So I just love the fact that this space is so collaborative. People are looking to really build the pie. Nobody's interested in necessarily their own slice of the pie as much as just openly collaborating to share this vision of building on Bitcoin. And it's an awesome industry to be in. So I'd just credit to those leaders.
It is a beautiful thing for the collaboration side of it. It was cool to see it, come through. So
yeah.
Shout out to you guys for putting in the work for Nashville. It's been really cool to see.
Thank you. Appreciate it.